Schengen Story magazine is an African international bi-monthly magazine based in Milan, Italy, and founded in 2016. The publication focuses on personalities, fashion, style, entrepreneurship, and culture for Africans. Though articles on food, movies, fitness, music, travel, sports, technology, and books are also featured. Our lives full of best stories. A lot can happen in a month. Expand your mind, change your world. Get Schengen Story magazine's full editions. Celebrating Africans make an impact. Read better, the inside story. Your fashion magazine for a better lifestyle. Inspiring stories for you. Your monthly dose of entertainment, a better mind keeping you updated.
Hashtag Schengen Story Magazine. Get Schengen Story Magazine full editions.
You're welcome to this special edition of News Echoes coming all the way from Milan. My name is Shegun Johnson, and today we're interviewing one of the gubernatorial candidates in the forthcoming Anambra election. The D-Day is 6th of November, and the whole world is watching. We have so many candidates that are contesting, but we have one candidate in the studio. On this program, we have interviewed 3 other candidates, but it's a pleasure to welcome into our midst the one being put forward by African Democratic Congress, and many of their members are sure that he is going to be the one. His name, you know him, is Nze Akachukwu Nwankpo. You are welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And we have different colleagues across Europe who will be interviewing you. I have in Nantes, west of France, one of our colleagues here is Chuma, Monsieur Chuma. You are welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you, Shegun. It's a pleasure being here again. Thank you, His Excellency to be, for having you.
And, of course, and we have in Milan our anchorman, Mark Godwin. Mark, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shegun. Thank you for this beautiful platform to hear from our governor to be from Anambra State.
And we still have 1 or 2 more coming to give an interview, because the very moment we mentioned your name, they said, yes, they will work. So as the time moves on, we may have more people to come and give you some questions, which we're sure you'll be able to answer. But sir, the Nigerians in diaspora, over 22.5 million, would like to know you. That is your background, where you were born, what business you are doing. They want to meet with His Excellency to be Mr. Akachukwu Nwankpo.
Well, essentially, I'm born in El Zobolo in Anambra State, 1962. And I've had a career in public service. I have a background in philosophy, law, administration, and education. I have degrees in those areas. And I've been through public service from local government to state government to regional government to the presidency. I've also had a career in consulting. I do have minor interests in private business, but I'm essentially a public servant. Thank you.
We're asking essential questions that many people from Anambra will want to ask. Sir, if you are elected the governor of Anambra State, what are the 4 important things you would like to do for the people of Anambra State?
The first and most important thing for me is bringing the government of Anambra State under the people. What we have now for the past 22 years of democracy in Anambra State is that the state government operates like a runaway horse. No control, no accountability, nothing. So what I would do is to bring government under control. And that involves 4 basic things. The first one is an executive that responds to rule of law. An executive that understands that he's the custodian of law and order in the state and must be an example for good conduct under the law. The next is a legislature that is able to do its work without bowing to executive pressure. To achieve that, you have to have an assembly that is financially independent, a judiciary that is financially independent, a public service that is autonomous and professional. Now, what that means is that the first thing I have to do is to get the government of Anambra State to function like a modern democracy. The balance of power will be in place. The next is to get the people to have the power to control those in government. That takes us down to the local government. The local government leadership must be elected instantly by the people. The local government chairman, the local government councillors. So we have to have elections instant. Now, the running through the entire system is a social contract with the people of Anambra State that defines how you bring people into public office so that they are recallable. Today, rich men, powerful people pick their cronies, put them into public offices, and they just run amok in the street, in the state. And that is why we have a 22 years, 6.5 trillion naira spent, and the entire place is still in tatters. So the first thing I bring is responsible governance.
Okay, I will. All right, sir. I just want to ask my colleague in Nantes to ask you a question. We got what you have said. We will still ask more of the questions, but I want to bring in my colleague from west of France. Chuma.
My question goes, I'm heading towards health area. I have a question for you in health and education, but first let's take health. His Excellency, sir, I know you have traveled a lot and you have seen how health services are handled in other places, other parts of the world. What are your plans towards making health care facilities as accessible to the poor masses, as in not being in a situation where they are cut off? If you don't pay huge sum of money, you're not treated and all this. Let life be cared, life first before others.
Well, I think it's in Anambra State, the Anambra State Health Insurance Program has been driving towards that. Past governments in Anambra State have laid the basic foundation for health insurance. And I think that the foundation they've laid, which under Willie Obiano was improved a lot, we are going to build on that because it's health insurance that enables universal access to exist. But universal access has to exist on a platform that involves two layers. The first is primary healthcare. Now, the Canadian model comes to mind for me. The Canadian model has driven healthcare to the primary health level. And at the primary health level, there are three things that are critical. The first one is preventive care. So you don't have a lot of people, sick people coming to the hospital. So in terms of nutrition, sanitation, and control of things that people buy, the quality of materials bought in markets like raw meat, raw vegetable, all those kind of things. So I have to deal with standardization and regulation that impacts on consumption, what people put into their mouth and what they eat, and the environment in which they operate. Then the next thing is diagnosis. Being able to know, pick it up in time, what's wrong with this person, and attend to so the primary health center should be able to deal with vital signs. Now, the capacity to handle vital signs at the level of the primary health, which is closest to the population, is key in the strategies that I'm looking at. Now, at that level, you are able to pick up indicators early and address them. And before you go to long care in the hospital, where people now require hospitalization and all that. In hospitalization, for me, I would want to work with, I wouldn't run a government that will run those hospitals. So I would like to work with missions and special groups that have developed capacity, both within the state and outside, to build long care centers. So government will participate by providing regulation, by providing standard tools around protection of health, sick people, so that the entities that manage long care do not look at their own business and compromise the health and life of the person who is under their care. Now, this entire span in long care and all that, I have to also deal with quality of medicine that come into the environment. Now, these are things to do with pharmaceutical bodies, medical organizations, and all the entities that have established themselves as authorities within the environment, both by law and by practice. So I'll work with them to make sure that long care medicines and standards of equipment that come into my state are such that can meet the needs of the people. But as a government, I'll be very aggressive at the primary health level and focus on making sure that community primary health institutions are such that you have nurses trained for care, not nurses who have no understanding of how to attend to people who are challenged. So that means that we have to build the technical capacity of technical staff that work in the hospitals that are near to the population to become caregivers. So they are able to help people who are challenged, who are picking up signs of illness, and they are able to help them to sort out themselves and not advance to long care. So it is insurance, and then it's segmented attention. That's what I'll do in health.
Thank you very much, sir.
Are you there with us? Mazi, Godson, Azu. That's Mazi, who lives in a middle part of England. He is a political analyst, and we brought him specially so that he could ask you some other questions that the people of Anambra would like to hear your answer. Godson, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, my Lord Bishop and spiritual bishop. It's my great pleasure joining you all this evening. And thank you.
The gubernatorial candidate of African Democratic Congress, Mr. Akachukwu Nwankpo, is in the studio. And before we continue, I want you to ask him a very important question you've been holding on to. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Doc. My question is going to be a little bit more theoretical in the sense that in politics, the theory defines the practical. But it seems that Nigerian politics and the sense of politicking does not apply theory to achieve a successful practical end of politics. If I may ask just two questions, and I am working towards this kind of question for any of the Nigerian politicians in this modern day politics and the forthcoming generation. Can you define what are the political principles, philosophy, and ideology of your political party? And how does this transcend to your personal political philosophy and ideology? And collectively, how can these principles, philosophy, and ideology of your party transcend to how you orchestrate your policies, economic, political, and social policies as you become, or as you work towards becoming the governor of Anambra State? And my question is in the sense that if you look at most developed countries and even emerging developing countries in Africa, they are either leaders that are tilting to a little bit to the center, right of the center, or left of the center, or are in an equilibrium center. Nigerian party politics does not really know if they are in the far left, far right, center left, or an equilibrium party. And as such, many of the politicians doesn't even know where they belong in the political strands of modern day politics. Where do you stand on this with your party and your own philosophy and how you're going to mold that to your policies.
Okay, well, Godson, I come from a background that has over a deep-seated political philosophy. That political philosophy is fundamentally Igbo. The Igbo people practice participatory democracy. We do not do representative democracy. And most of what you explain come from the Western culture. And the challenge of running our society is because most of the assumptions behind public office are abstracted from cultures and traditions that have not gone into what we are doing. Now, in Igbo land, the fundamental principle of public space is captured on two words, on two sentences. Ezioku bondo, that means truth is life. Asebo, that means falsehood is death. Then in Igbo land, we are given two opportunities. One, to find the truth is called Ijiogu. Then to go by the direction of the truth called Ofo. Now, the two authorities for public life in Igbo land is Ofo and Ogu. Now, these two principles are embedded in a system that is very, very ancient and still surviving within Igbo land today, called the Umunna system. Now, if you look behind me, you will see that I have put Umunna revolution behind as my backdrop. Now, what this means is that the philosophy with which we approach both the governance in Anambra State and advancement we want to make in the party. When ADC was brought into Anambra State and we joined it, we changed the slogan to Kwemnaka Gwame Ezioku, which means shake my hands and say the truth. Because that is fundamental to the philosophy of managing the public space in Igbo land. What we are saying in our current effort in Anambra State is that we are going to therefore entrench this philosophy in the management of our state. And we are proposing as a fundamental part of our manifesto to establish in every local government in Anambra State, a standing assembly called Nzuko Umunna local government. Now, in this standing assembly, we made up of all the Akajiofo in the local government, all the people who are still holding that symbol of justice in Anambra, within that local government. Every Umunna has that symbol of justice, which has transcended from generation to generation in all families in Igbo land. If you come back to Anambra State, to your home today, you will attend the family meeting. That Umunna meeting, there will be an offer, and there will be elders, and every member of the family will now be reduced to about the same level. They give you respect for whatever symbolism, for whatever successes you have. But the right to speech and the right to participate and the right to be consulted is absolute. Every individual must be consulted, heard, and once a decision has been made at that collective and therefore has been brought down on it, you cannot reverse it on your own. That's the fundamental departure point for us. And we have promoted that in Anambra State. That once we are able to do that and make that the foundation of our social contracts, then we bring that to the state level. As governor, we'll bring the instruments of modern governance to embody this fundamental element of managing the public space. So that is the philosophy from where we come. It is actually delegated democracy, and behind it is participation. If you go to Yaramona, there's a decision at the general body, which is actually like the assembly. When you get there, you are a delegate. And your family, Yaramona will tell you what to say. And their commitments along that line. If you go to that meeting and you depart from the path your community has agreed, they will recall you instantly. And that is why you cannot do that. Because the power of recall is sitting with the people. What is missing today is that a representative, once you vote people into office or put them into office, they think that the thing has become their personal property and they handle it the way they like. And the people have no way of controlling them. They run through the street with sirens, soldiers, and all that kind of thing. And the people are just left powerless. So we are determined as a people to change that. And ADC as a party has agreed to work with us to do that in Anambra State. And that's why they accepted the slogan,
all right, sir. Thank you very much. I think you've made a very clear African ideology there. Probably the rest of the Southeast will be able to take it. I have a special issue concerning IPOB. No doubt you are aware that they could tell the Southeast not to go to work on a Monday and they will not go. How do you intend to alleviate the suffering of IPOB ruling from behind if you are made the governor?
Well, let me make a mild correction. The idea of describing what IPOB is doing as ruling from behind may not be the best expression. IPOB as an organization came forward years back. There's been this agitation from MASSOP to IPOB and all that stuff. People who are saying that the Federation of Nigeria has not given them the space to define their talents and their capacities as ethnic people. And the gifts that God has given to them, they are not able to manifest it within the Federation of Nigeria because the way the Federation functions undermines their Igbo-ness. So they've been talking about it. They started initially as groups of pressure groups, then grew into agitators, grew into people demanding for referendum, and then they were talking, having all this radio stuff, until the Federation began to cut them down physically. And when people started shooting people down, when people talking to you and you start to shoot at them, if they are serious, they might learn how to shoot back at you. So that is the fundamental departure point in the conversation around IPOB. And I think if anybody wants to deal with it and don't want to deal with it in that way, is not really being sincere about it. So the guys are not necessarily ruling from behind. They picked up what appears to be a standard global agitation formula, civil disobedience. Now, the way and manner they have gotten around it may have been painful to the population, but somehow civil disobedience has come around. Now, they have this civil disobedience thing going on. And in the effort to do that, they have undermined some elements of development within the state. Market, economic activities, things like that. People are trying to, but you see, the population is caught between whom to follow. There are young people who are expressing some of the desires that they want. So they are sympathetic to it. The processes may be not what they want, but the alternative, who is on the other side of the discussion? Who are the other people on the other side of the discussion? Our legislators, our governors, and people of responsibility who have the lever of power. What are they doing? How are they handling the affairs of the people? Look at the state. Everywhere is torn to pieces. Bad roads, everything is upside down. So the people have that frustration on the other side. That is the situation you have. And what we need to do, and that is what I present as a politician, as someone who is asking God to give me the opportunity to fix this, is that we must be real to the situation. IPOB says that our homeland is not well governed. And they are correct in that regard. We are not well governed. So we need to be able to give confidence to these young people that the next step will involve proper government, not just elite throwing around money and muzzling all over the place. That's what's been going on for 22 years. So for me, I have come out and I have said, guys, listen, I understand this matter. And I am not going to tell you that I'll be able to govern the place on my own. No, I'm going to submit myself to participation. Let everybody come home. Go around what works. The only thing that currently works is the family meeting. Now, so everybody go down to your families. These polling units are put within your own. Take charge of it and make up your mind what you want. And then when you form this functional nucleus, let us then step forward and build from there. So
wow.
For me,
That is a practical way of handling this matter. And I want to call on my colleague in west of France, Chuma. Monsieur Chuma, ça va? You wanted to ask a question on education. It's your time now. Allez-y, mon ami.
Okay. Mr. Akachukwu, we've listened to all you've been saying, and they're all wonderful. From the ideologies you've tried to portray to us, you're trying to tell us that you're more or less coming to the center. And then a lot of things has come to mind. I want to find out, just based on my first question, you said you were going to bring in some nurses and doctors that are grounded in the areas of health and others. I want to find out, how do you intend to handle education during your administration? Because we know that an educated man or educated woman is an educated nation. And then with the way the cost of education is going high, still that's the places I hit on the cost of things. And then how difficult it is affordable for the poor masses to attend to certain levels of education. You can see school fees are going out of reach for them. For you to achieve this health something, then you have to make the education going. How will your budget on education go? And how will you see that it's been implemented based on what His Excellency Peter Obi did? He was able to get the schools back to the churches took back the schools, and he was financing them direct and not giving to somebody that will give to somebody that will give to somebody. So now, how do you intend to handle this to consolidate on what he has done so that education can get to the grassroots and everybody will follow up, so that whatever that is the news or trend of things in town, people will understand and help the nation work further based on health and other things? Thank you.
Okay, well, now let me separate the health thing from education proper. The health thing is an intervention. You see, we have to deal with raising technical hands. And the way I want to go about it is to create digital connection between us and those of you who are overseas. We have a lot of very brilliant medical officers all over the world who are doing very well. So I intend to create digital boxes where they can do remote training for nurses. So that one is easy to do. We can handle that. The more complex thing is the education itself. Getting the population to be educated. So now, in dealing with that, there are two things that are first have to come on board: literacy and numeracy. Our education is intensively literate right now. Most of the schools raise kids who just go in, they learn to speak English, and then come out, and even when they are doing various subjects, it's like the English language of those subjects. So they are not really practically laying their hands on the management of time, space, and dimension, which is numeracy. Now, so I'm going to intervene in curriculum, content of education, so that our people will understand that language is just an instrument for conveying your management of the space, time, and dimension. Now, if you don't understand space, time, and dimension, and have the capacity to deal with it, the language flows over the reality, and they are not able to solve problems. So my curriculum is the first principle, curriculum change. And within that curriculum change, I also have to build confidence in the people, that we are not a generation of people who have to be taught everything. Our forefathers knew a lot. So I'm going to bring Igbo civilization and culture as part of the foundation for curriculum, as part of the education, so that they will see what our parents, our forefathers got right. And some of the things that are happening in our environment, the food we eat, the medicine that we practice, there are so many things that are right with us that are not just washed off. So we have a professor, one professor, Ume, who has done phenomenal work in these areas, and so many other professors. They've done great works. And this work should be brought into the curriculum, so our children will know that we have a past that they can look at. Then in numeracy, you deal with capacity to, deal with measurements, things like that. So we are going to adjust to that curriculum. The next thing is method. Now, we can't continue rote learning. What you have now in schools is rote learning. the teacher vomits something, the children consume it and reproduce it to the teacher. We need to change that. I need to have an education that is interactive, where the imagination of the child interacts with the education. And there are already tools for it. They are not classrooms anymore. They are called palm-tops. They are there, palm-tops. And we can have, you know, our people who have studied computer sciences, programming and all that, who can develop educational content. So I will first contract educational content as a product which can now be sent out. And parents are every child that has come to the age of being able, to the age of 10, thereabout, between 6 and 10, that are able to use palm-tops and stuff like that, will have one. And we'll have an arrangement where they can have a long-term payment for it. So the burden of having access to the digital classroom on the parent is not heavy. The palm-tops are not expensive in that sense. And it doesn't have to be an Apple or some of this funky stuff. It has to be something that works. So
there is a colleague in Milan who wants to ask you a question, sir. A colleague, Mark Godwin, is itching to ask you a question, and I'm looking at the time as well. So, Mark in Milan, do you want to ask your question quickly?
Thank you very much, Dr. Shago. Mr. Honorable Akachukwu is saying some wonderful things. I like the fact that he is bringing grassroots ideas into his side of governance. And that really matters. I want to ask this, my honorable governor to be, Anambra State is known for commerce, and there is a big hub of intelligent minds building, creating, doing so many things, and selling out to other parts of Nigeria and to other parts of Africa. But that center of commerce has not been arranged very well. The last time I checked, even the structure, the layout and the buildings covering that side of the Ochanja market and all those big markets in Anambra, everything is scattered. Things are not well aligned. How do we arrange the commerce of Anambra to really become productive and turn out products around Africa and around the world? How do we arrange that big field of commerce? Thank you, sir.
Well, okay, thank you for raising that issue. It's something that I addressed directly in my manifesto. I call it Okonkwo and Company. You know, we have family business. It's something that the Igbos do very well. In fact, I say that I'm going to create a department for Okonkwo and Company. Now, that department is just a brand name for you to remember that this is something that will do very well. So to do that, there are three things that are important. First is trading has to be organized. So everybody who is trading in Anambra State needs to be brought into the economy. So they have to understand that you have to register a company, you have to do ABCD. So I'm going to have a support system that will make sure that every trader is registered. It is good for the person, it's good for us as government. So we're also able to tax. Now, the next thing is the trading space. We have no markets in Anambra State, nothing. They're just shanties all over the place. And as government, I'm going to rebuild the entire markets in Anambra State, rebuild them. They are not going to be any fancy, expensive, these are just H-beams, well-arranged H-beams with good roofs on top of them and clear fireproof partitions that are able to let vehicles come into the market, drop things and drive out. And then you're able to run water out, bring in the toilet, bring in power, bring in internet, bring in all the support for the market. We are going to do all that. It's not expensive stuff to do. It's not going to be too fanciful, but it will be effective. Then the next thing is the trader himself. The Anambra trader is left on his own, no support from government. You know, they are beaten all over the country when they travel. Even when they travel globally, they run into obstacles. And those obstacles, they are left on their own. So I'm going to have a trade intervention unit within my government and a special advisor attached to that role, whose duty is to respond to the needs of the traders and help them. The next thing is finance. If you don't have a credit system that enables them to get money within the single digits, then it's difficult to grow the trade. And what we've done is to come up with a new initiative that we'll call Anambra Savings and Investment Portfolio. It's a system that if you want to play in, you must register in from the age of 10 in your family up. And there's a monthly savings of about 500 naira a month per person. Now, this creates a pool of funds that is available within the portfolio. Government will also be putting in its own money in there. And then you have some investment, some money that people can borrow. The collateral for this money has to be provided. And what we've done is to look at Anambra State, and we've seen that Anambra is awash with lots of buildings that are lying waste all over Anambra State, built by some of you who are overseas and everything. And these buildings are not bankable. They cannot be brought into the economy. So we're discussing, and after consultation, initial consultation with bankers committees and people like this, I've been convinced that I will be able to issue ownership documents that are bankable, so that these buildings and properties all over Anambra State can come into the economy as collaterals and function within the financing system that we are creating. So we are going to do four basic things. First one is create the environment for trade. Second one is make sure that the traders are within the formal sector. Then third is create a credit and loan system that enables them to get money. Then fourth is support the trader to make sure that the trader understands the law, and when he is in trouble, we can assist him. That's what we're going to do.
We just have the 9 minutes right now, and it's just fair that I should give you the last say. I know my colleagues in Misbro, Peterborough, in Nantes, in Milan, they want to ask you more and more questions, but because the Schengen media will have to move to another program, we just have to ask you to imagine you are in front of 22.5 million Nigerians in diaspora, and who have their kids and kin in Anambra, and who are going to pick up their telephone and say, I want you to vote for this man because he has spoken very well on education, on health, and especially on ideology, which many Nigerian politicians have no clue about. But you have successfully presented the Umona revolution, and I think that will go a long way. But then there are 22.5 million Nigerians in diaspora listening to you, watching you. What would be your final say, especially if I say Soludo? Professor Soludo is coming from Abga, and we have Uba, and we have Okonkwo from Zenith Labour Party, and others. How do you want to displace them and be the next governor of Anambra State? On that note, I want to thank you very much and thank my colleagues, but you have the last 3 minutes.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, my brothers and sisters. What is at stake in Anambra State is not talent. It's not professionalism. It's not money. It's not none of those things. See, we have a lot of Soludos. We have a lot of Akachukwus. We have a lot of, there's no, all this talk about brilliance is not for Anambra State. What is missing is the control of government. Control of government cannot happen if you don't get involved. Get involved. The polling unit is in your family compound. No, it is Nangada. It is between your legs. Support your umunna to rise up and hold the space, control of government. Once we can come home and show the people in public space that they are not special, they are our servants, and if they don't behave well, we will deal with them. Once we get that right, the genius of Anambra State will rise. Today, all kinds of mess is going on, and the environment is being decimated. Rich people are corrupting the population, convincing people that they are hungry, so they must take to 2,000 naira, 5,000 naira. Come on, what a shame. This is Anambra State, for goodness sake. What are the hungry people? Let people stop deceiving this, because the people that they are talking to are not even deceived. They are listening because they feel powerless. They feel powerless. So let's empower our people. We can get up and take this space. It cannot be given to us as a gift. Get up, go back to your home and get this action going. That's what I say to you. It's not about me. The only thing I offer is that I will submit myself to the rule of law. I will sign a social contract. And because of 15 years of reputation that I have of being honorable in the public space, you can be guaranteed that that will be done and done well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Akachukwu Nwankpo. That's how far we can go today on News Echoes. I want to thank my colleague from Midborough, especially Peterborough, Gossin Azu. Thank you for coming to this special program. I want to thank my colleague from Nantes in west of France, Chuma. Thank you very much. My colleague from Milan in Italy, Mark Godwin. Thank you very much. And most importantly, we want to thank our guest speaker, Honorable Akachukwu Nwankpo. And until next week, Wednesday, when we bring you another guest speaker, my name is Schengen Johnson. I say God bless you all. Don't forget, Umuna Revolution is here.
Like that. Oh my God.